Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to this webinar. It's my pleasure to host you today. Today's topic is about a STEM MBA in the United States with a 30% scholarship. Now, when we speak of a STEM and management education, because we are here to speak of a STEM MBA, of course, a lot of you might be aware that US is known as the Mecca of tech and management education. STEM education is obviously becoming more vital every day. And if we look at the current statistics, there's also a report by the World Economic Forum that by 2025, you could have 97 million new roles that are adapted to the new division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. So of course, there is already it's a growing demand for data analysts, data scientists, specialists in AI. But more so, there's also a growing demand for managers and people in leadership roles who are required in leadership capacities across technology companies. With that, today we have a very special school with us, Illinois Institute of Technology. And we have our guest from IIT Chicago, Brian Albertson, who is the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment Strategy. And we have Mala Workman. Both of them are joining in. Mala is joining us from Mumbai and Brian is joining us from Chicago. Thank you to the both of you for being here today. And, when we speak of IIT Chicago, of course, you have a very long legacy and it's one of the only tech-focused universities in Chicago. But yes, I would leave it to both of you to introduce yourselves and to also introduce IIT Chicago to everyone here.
Wonderful. I am going to share my slide deck here with everyone. Okay. Well, welcome. My name, again, is Brian Albertson. I am the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment Strategy here at the Stuart School of Business at Illinois Tech in Chicago. We're happy to talk to you about our Master of Business Administration program in business analytics. I'm going to first start with a little overview of the Stuart School of Business, just to provide some context of who we are, where we've come from, and where we're headed. And then I certainly want to focus on how we promote student success and ultimately career outcomes. As you're considering a graduate program in business or maybe another industry, a common question you should be asking those programs is, how do your graduates fare in the marketplace? What types of jobs are they getting? Are they getting jobs? What's the salary look like? And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And then we'll certainly leave some time at the end for you to ask any questions that you have about our program or about the university in general. So a little bit about Illinois Tech. I'm going to play a quick video, make sure my sound is shared here. There we go. So if you can't hear it, the sound should start in just a moment.
Today's businesses move at lightning speed, so we have to move even faster. At the Stuart School of Business, we look ahead to stay ahead with education that's on the frontier of business and tech. Set in the heart of Chicago, a global hub for business innovation, Stuart provides resilient, future-ready education and training. Our programs imbue students with an entrepreneurial mindset and the agility and adaptability necessary to be on the fast track to success. Faculty and staff work closely with students, delving into the latest in analytics, finance, economics, and business, as well as new technologies like AI and blockchain. We provide students, many of whom are the first in their family to attend college, with an in-demand edge. As a result, our graduates become global leaders who know how to integrate technology into the growth of their business, who know how to do more with less, and have the grit and tenacity to go further, faster.
So that is just a quick intro to who we are. And it is still playing here. So let me move on to the next slide. There we go. So that's a quick intro to who we are as a school of business, and you can see some of the visuals of campus and some of the students that enroll, or some of our faculty members and staff members as well. We have just over 1,000 students at the Stuart School of Business. So we are growing very rapidly. We're very excited about that growth. We just surpassed 1,000 students for the first time in a number of years. And so we see students coming from all across the world to Stuart School of Business. In fact, 73% of our students in our both undergraduate and graduate programs are international students. So they're coming from a different country than the United States. At the graduate level, I would say that number is actually probably closer to 90%, 90, maybe even 92%. We do have a very strong international population at the graduate level. Our placement rate for domestic students, and we'll kind of peel back the onion on why we're saying that domestic word there, is because we have 100% for domestic students, but part of the reason why we use the domestic rate, at least on this slide, is we prepare students extremely well. As we are looking at some of the difficulties in the marketplace of visa support and all of that, it can be difficult. However, through the OPT, or optional practical training program, we have very good success rates for students receiving jobs. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a later slide. And all students coming into our programs receive some form of financial assistance to attend. We are accredited by the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business, or AACSB. This is something I would highly recommend that you ask the business schools that you're considering. Less than 6% of business schools worldwide hold this accreditation. And what that means is it's a mark of excellence. It means that faculty are in the classroom teaching courses. It means that we have a very keen focus on student success, social impact within our curriculum. And it also means that our students get good jobs, meaning they pay well, they're stable, and we have excellent career outcomes. And so it is truly a mark of excellence to find that AACSB accredited logo. And so any of the schools that you're considering, I highly recommend you ask that question. As previously mentioned on the webinar, we are the only business school at a technology-focused university in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And so we kind of hold a special place in the marketplace for people who may be coming from a STEM background, who want to become maybe a manager or a leader within a business organization. Maybe they want to just have additional knowledge of business practices and analytics. That's excellent. Our programs are very focused on the tech side of business. We really seek to answer the question, how do we use technology to make money, right? And some of you are probably doing that right now. How are you using technology to make money in your current role? I'd love to hear about that later in the Q&A. All right. And, as we think about the future, future careers are going to be technology focused. We need to provide the economy in the United States and the worldwide economy workers who are technology and data focused, who have the skills to go into a company and be able to do their business analytics, to give data informed decision makers the data that they're going to be using to make those decisions, right? The decision makers aren't always the ones who are actually pulling the data. They're the ones who are being provided the data, being told the story about the data, and therefore making a decision on that data. So, we want to provide provide people like you careers in those data-driven careers. The other aspect of this is that, we continue to see a changing skill set demanded by employers. And so as we look to, what are employers looking for in the workforce, they're looking for people with quantitative digital skills. They're looking for people who can, again, come into the company and help with those decision makers. We also find that people are needing digital literacy and also remote work experience. We all understand that the global pandemic changed the way that we work in a lot of different ways. And so as we look at, again, what our employers are demanding, not all are demanding remote work experience, right? Some people are saying, oh, we got to come back to the office. But many are still maybe in a hybrid format, or maybe, if you're traveling for your business, you need to be able to have that remote work experience and be able to be trusted in that way. So a little bit about Illinois Tech and Chicago. Chicago is a global city. It's honestly my favorite city in the world. It's part of the reason why I live here. It's an international city. It's an extremely diverse city. We are a city made up of neighborhoods. We have 77 different neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. Our main campus is located in Bronzeville in Chicago. It's just south of the downtown location. And our downtown campus is right near the Sears Tower, or what's now called the Willis Tower. It's one of the tallest buildings in the world. Our location is excellent for a business school. The reason for that is we are steps away from the central business district of Chicago. I walk outside my office, I am 3 blocks from the Sears Tower. When you walk over to the river, which is actually 2 blocks, it's a little bit closer, 2 blocks to the river, I can look over to my left and see the CME Group. A little bit further to the left, I can see Boeing. You walk a few blocks further, I can see the Chicago Board of Trade, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. We are truly in a city that you can walk to your internship or to your ultimately your job placement. It is an extremely important financial district for Chicago and for the United States. That is Chicago. So we have hundreds, thousands of employers who are looking for talent, anything from small startups to large Fortune 500 companies, which again means access to internships and jobs and networking. I think one of the most important things that you can do as a student coming to the United States is networking with employers from day one. Do not wait until your last semester when you're like, well, it's time to look for a job. No, your job search starts day one. You have to start that as soon as you get to us. So let's talk a little bit about our MBA in Business Analytics, or our STEM MBA. I think it's really important to provide context to why this degree program is important and why we even have this degree program. It's because the job outlook for this program is very high. You see 14 to 25% increase to 2030 in analytics occupations. That's huge. So, as we look at the job market, and as we talk to employers, most importantly, we hear the demand for people to come into these careers. And so we certainly see that within the data and when we talk to our counterparts on the employer side. Now, talking a little bit about curriculum, I think it's really important to kind of talk about, you might have seen on an earlier slide and some of our other materials, is that we call ourselves Stuart School of Business, and our tagline is Bridging Business and Technology. And so on the right side of that screen, you can see the intersection of business, innovation, and technology. And that's what we're doing throughout our curriculum. The curriculum includes 12 total classes: strategic management, microeconomics and game theory, leadership, analytics for decision-making, marketing strategy, financial statements, financial management, operations and technology management, and digital transformation. So those specific classes, those 9 classes actually, are classes that give you the core foundation for the Master of Business Administration. Those specific classes provide a great foundation. So if you are someone who maybe did a BTech program or a non-business degree prior to an MBA in business analytics, this is where you learn that baseline business knowledge, business acumen, and really get a good idea of how do businesses run, how do they make money, how do they manage costs effectively, how do they make decisions, how do they manage their financial statements, all of those different types of things. You're going to get almost what I like to call a crash course in business. That's what those initial courses are for. Now, the reason why our program is called MBA in Business Analytics is because it has a specialization in, you guessed it, analytics. So we have 4 courses that you can take, or that you will take in the program, that provide that analytics training beyond what is provided in that initial core curriculum. So our visual analytics, data analytics, and visualization. Think about programs like Tableau, right? Data visualization. How are you creating charts and graphs that easily communicate your message? How are you telling stories through those charts and graphs? Database design in SQL. Again, not many business programs in the world offer SQL programs within the School of Business. This is a huge opportunity for students to learn some database design and computer skills right within our program. We offer a predictive analytics class. Obviously, that's important to do, statistical analysis of how are we predicting what's going to happen within our marketplace in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, year, really giving executives a good idea of what's happening within the market. And then also quantitative marketing models. So some of these, actually all of these analytics courses are within our marketing analytics program, but they take a business focus, a business lens case, business lens to all of these cases that you would be looking at throughout these courses. So outcomes of this specific program, we find that students coming out of this program are people who are able to be sophisticated in how they look at data, how they lead an organization through change. We all know that change is a constant. Change happens every day within organizations, but how do they communicate that change through data? How can they provide decision makers the data they need to make those decisions or communicate those decisions? So we see people going into management analyst roles. So how are, again, companies managing maybe layoffs? Maybe it is hiring, going through, organizational efficiency, as it says on the slide there, and to increase company profits. Operations research analysts, people who are able to, go into an organization and make a process better. We've probably all been part of a work experience where you're thinking, we could probably do this better than we're actually doing it right now. I can even think of a couple of things in my current role that I could do a little bit better. That's a job that someone could come in, a consultant could come in and say, Brian, you should really be doing it this other way, right? You could have somebody come into a company and give that specific recommendation. And so that's similar to what an operations research analyst does. And then also market research analysts. I have a good friend who works in a beverage industry, and they look at data in terms of what consumers are preferring, and so when we look at market research analysts, those are almost in any kind of business. What is the market telling us right now? There's troves of data that you can go through to see, okay, what are customers telling us by what they're buying? At the grocery store or in a medical setting. There are so many different research analyst positions, and it just depends on what type of industry you're interested in going into. I wanted to provide a quick quote from one of our former students, Jack. He says, the Stuart School of Business offers a unique degree. It combines business and technology seamlessly. Stuart's programs help students prepare to be good business storyteller with a deep understanding of cutting edge technology. And that's really what I want to tell you today is it is extremely important to find a program that will prepare you to be a storyteller and also provide the technology related education that you need for today. So to talk a little bit about student success, we offer a number of different resources, but one of our first ones that I want to talk about is Dr. Kurt Alley. He actually helps run our preterm orientation program. And so this is a program that happens a few months before the semester begins. And you'll go through a number of different modules online, but then also some Zoom calls like this, where we get to talk about your experience and your, what you want to do while you're here. help you transition to Chicago, help you find a place to live, all of those types of things. We have an excellent orientation program to have you go through. He also oversees our Board of Advisors mentorship program, so you could be paired with a Board of Advisors member. Our Board of Advisors are made up of high-level executives from across Chicago, and so you could be paired with one of those Board Advisors members who would take you under their wing and help you, explore what it means to be a business person in Chicago. Maybe work on specific skill sets that you need to work on. So that's a great program as well. Career readiness programs and ACE, those programs are really designed for students who may need additional help with, again, acclimating to Chicago in terms of your business skill set. So how can we work on your resume, on your cover letter, and get those going even before you start, looking for an internship. We want those to be ready well before then. And then he also helps out with our competitions and applied experiences. Our students do extremely well in business competitions, and Kurt is an excellent resource for that. We also have two dedicated academic advisors, Justine and Yesenia. They are excellent resources in terms of navigating the academic curriculum here. It can be complex depending on your specific unique interests and goals. I will say the business administration, business analytics program is a little bit more rigid in terms of the courses that you're taking. There's not as much customization available just because there are specific requirements that you need to meet, but they're able to help you navigate any questions that you may have about that. One thing that I think is different, again, about the Stuart School of Business is that our faculty are very involved in the classroom and helping with the course material, but our academic advisors are professional academic advisors. Their only job is to advise you on the curriculum and your needs. And so while it would be great to have the faculty advise you, we actually find that our professional advising model works extremely well, and that allows them to be available when you're available. They can help you with your study skills, registration, course sequencing, navigating that graduate school, all of those types of things. They're just an excellent resource. And last but certainly not least, our Career Management Center is headed up by our Dr. Helena Zenwa. She's the Assistant Dean for External Relations and Career Management. She's assisted by Tiffany White and Lizette Torres Rodriguez. They offer several events every month regarding career management and career development. We often have multiple employers coming to our downtown campus every week. We had employers here last week for mock interviews and presentations about their companies. So they'll talk about what positions they're currently hiring for, which ones they may be hiring for in the future. And those mock interviews are excellent experiences for students like you to sit down one-on-one with somebody who is a professional interviewer and get real-time feedback about your responses, maybe about your, different ways that you're responding to those interview questions, your tone. All of those things are really helpful to get when it's not a high stakes situation. You don't want your first interview to be your first real job interview. We want your first interview to be a mock interview where it's low stakes. The person is a friendly face across the table, and they're happy to help you improve your skills. They offer resume, cover letter, LinkedIn reviewing, support, career counseling, all of that. If I didn't mention this before, I think it's really important too to understand that our Career Management Center is specific to the School of Business. This Career Management Center does not service students in other academic areas. It is only for the School of Business students. So they have expertise in all of our academic programs to help you find internships and jobs. Last, and certainly not least on this list at least, is they also provide a weekly newsletter. The newsletter is called What's Next, and it offers all of the news and updates that are happening within the School of Business every week. So you receive that on Sunday night. It has announcements and information on internships and jobs that are currently posted. And certainly we want to talk about jobs, right? We talked about what are the career placement rates? What do those look like? Well, these are some of the employers that we have hiring students from the Stuart School of Business. What I love about this photo is, or not photo, about the slide, is that we have logos on here of worldwide companies, local companies to Chicago. We have nonprofit, we have for-profit, we have municipalities on here. We find that our graduates are in demand in many, many industries, whether that's finance, marketing, analytics. We find that people are wanting our graduates because they know that they're getting a future-ready technical education within business. And that when we can see that that's really in demand, especially with these numbers. Our placement rate is darn near 100%. We're at 98.4%. You can't get much higher than that, right? So our career placement rate is excellent. Our mean starting salary is nearly $110,000 post-graduation. And all of this data comes back from our students. So if there's anything that I want you to hear from me today, there is a huge demand for Illinois Tech and Stuart School of Business graduates. And I want to leave you with this one quote, at least about the Career Management Center. About the Career Management Center has been very supportive from the time I first enrolled at Stuart. Assistant Dean Helen Azunwa and I have been in constant communication, and she has helped me a lot in preparing my resume and advising me on how to make connections, how to reach out to business professionals, and how to build my network. And that was from Mohammed in Delhi. So, this is the type of experience students have here, and they're always brimming with excitement after, especially talking with Helen. She's a fantastic career management professional. So let's talk a little bit about the application process applying for admission to Stuart. We, of course, will need an application for admission from you. We do provide an application fee waiver. I understand the waiver will be provided after this webinar is completed. So please hold tight. We aren't ready quite yet to send that out, but we will get that out to everybody soon. We do require specific documents such as transcripts. Those will need to be provided. A statement of purpose. We do not require letters of recommendation, only for our PhD programs. A GPA translation will be completed for you once you submit your application. So it's something you would need to submit. We do require English proficiency exam scores from most students. And then specifically GRE GMAT is not required. So that is not a requirement that we need you to complete. No standardized test scores outside of the TOEFL or IELTS. In terms of the application dates and deadlines for summer, I should say fall, for fall, we don't accept people in summer like May or June. We accept people in fall. So our fall priority deadline was January 31st. So just a few weeks ago, almost a month ago, actually now. And so that priority deadline gives people best consideration for their program and scholarship. However, the good news is we're still accepting applications. So if you did not meet that preferred deadline of January 31st, we are still accepting applications. Our deadline for the fall would be June 15th. We strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you complete the application for admission by June 15th, because again, those scholarship dollars and seats within those programs can fill up quickly. The other piece that is extremely important right now is you need to get a visa appointment as soon as possible. Visa appointment wait times are outrageous right now across the world. And so many of you are probably aware of that. So we want you to get admission to get your I-20 as soon as possible. So please do not delay. If you're looking at spring, October 1 is our priority deadline, and November 15th would be the final deadline for a spring enrollment. So that does it for me. I'd love to turn it over to the group for some question and answer and hear from you all. So thank you all for your time and attention today. It was nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. That was indeed a very detailed and extensive presentation. It was amazing learning about Stuart School of Business and the MBA program that we have, with your school. I can see that there is one question that's come in. Now, at this point, I would like all of our learners to use the next half an hour that we have with our experts, Mala and Brian, both, to ask all the questions that you may have, whether it's about education in the US and particularly about the MBA with Business Analytics program at IIT Chicago. But one of the first questions that came to my mind, Brian, when you were discussing at length about the program, is about what the ideal class room would look like. When we speak of an MBA, there would be learners who want to do a non-STEM MBA, and they would perhaps come from a humanities or an arts background. However, an MBA with a STEM is always an option for them. So what does your classroom look like? What kind of a candidate are you looking at?
Yeah, excellent question. So our program traditionally and majority of our students are actually coming from previous backgrounds such as computer science, engineering, architecture, any of those STEM areas, right? And so as we look at students who are coming into our programs, strongly computer science and engineering are our biggest undergraduate degrees that we see coming in. And what's neat about that is in the business classroom, what that does is it really starts to infuse and merge together those networking opportunities where a student would be able to say, hey, I've been working on this app. What do you all think of it? How can we monetize it? How can we do it? And maybe the engineers over here are saying, hey, software engineers are saying, hey, we need to, change this part of the app. We need to make the user interface a little bit more friendly to everybody. So the neat thing about that, it's a very diverse in terms of academic undergraduate discipline. It's very diverse in that way. And it really starts to get those conversations going early on, which is great.
Sure. Thank you for a clarification on that. And what would you say of a learner who, because this has become very common, people are looking to transition, and you spoke of a student who's done an course in architecture during their bachelor's. How easy or difficult it is for them to cope with the curriculum? And in respect of that, I would also like you to shed some light on the curriculum at IIT Chicago. How is that very special?
Yeah, I think we understand that most of our students are coming in with non-business degrees. So we're prepared for that, right? The curriculum is built for that. That being said, through the admission process, we are looking at a student's transcript to determine their fit for the program in terms of quantitative skills, in terms of the work experience that they may have or not have. We look within those specific areas. So for example, sometimes we get students who will apply for admission that have not done well quantitatively, right? And when we look at that, we say, okay, where have they not done well quantitatively? Are they not doing well in calculus, or are they not doing well in discrete math? Those are two very different things, right? And so when we look at those different areas, we can figure that out pretty quickly. Now, again, someone who struggles quantitatively, that, the MBA in business analytics may not be for you, right? And we are pretty upfront. We're pretty upfront with that, right? We don't want you to come here and not be successful. That is the last thing we want you to do, is to come here and not be successful. So when we make admission decisions, we also look at other programs. So if you're not competitive for, say, our business analytics program, we consider you for other programs like our marketing analytics program or our project management program. Because again, moving on to the second part of the question, our curriculum throughout the School of Business bridges business and technology. It's not just the business analytics program. It's also our project management program. It's our marketing analytics program. There are other tech-based curricular courses that you can take even outside of business analytics.
Great. That's very helpful, Brian. And of course, when we speak of both of these, let's say domains, MBA on one hand and business analytics, there are lots of students who prone to choose a MBA, which could be a general MBA in common functions, let's say HR or marketing, finance, something that is very predominant. And then there would be students who are looking to transition into a technical role, and they would specifically choose business analytics. I would really like you also to shed some light on why MBA with a business analytics is more lucrative and is also more sought after amongst employers today. And in respect of that, if you can, you've covered a lot on salaries and let's say, career outcomes. But typically, if we look at the performance of grads from IIT Chicago over the last couple of years, how has that been? What kind of roles have they entered into?
Yeah, well, first off, let me start here too to provide a little bit of context. The MBA in Business Analytics is a fairly new program. So it started, I think, in 2021. So we just had we're going to have our, or maybe 2022. So I think we're going to have our first full graduating class this spring. So we are still seeing, that process work through. What we can tell you, though, is that we have students who did a very similar program, like Jack in the slide deck I showed, who did MBA in marketing analytics, essentially a business analytics MBA, who have done extremely well. I feel like I read on LinkedIn or Inside Higher Ed or different business journals. I feel like I read almost every single week that some article, some crazy person is saying, the MBA is dead, the MBA is dead. I feel like I hear that every week. And honestly, I don't believe it. And here's why. The reason I don't put stock into that is because the MBA is dead for people who just think they need to get one just because. But someone who is actually invested in getting an MBA and actually active in the process of saying, no, I want an MBA because I want to be a business analyst. I am going to seek out these opportunities. I'm going to be intentional about the courses I take. I am going, those are the people that the MBA does a lot of great things for. So as we look at students going into the non-specialized MBA and a specialized MBA, I think the specialized MBAs are perfect for career changers. People who say, I've been doing this programming job for 5 years, 7 years, however long. I like it. I kind of want to do something different. Excellent. A specialized MBA is going to get you the business skills, but also provide specialized coursework in a specific area. One of the other programs we just launched, I won't spend too much time on this, but another program we just launched is an MBA in quantitative finance. So that gives career changers the basic business area, but also specialization in finance. And so as we're developing some of these MBAs with specializations, you're able to pivot from your current role, whether that's programming, being an engineer, et cetera. You can pivot by getting that basic business curriculum and also getting a specialization in a different area.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. I think that's an incredible insight because you are building on two very sought after skill sets in one degree in itself. And of course, that gives you an added advantage. It sets you apart amongst your peers. When you did speak of the fact that it allows learners to transition, there are some questions from our learners here who are keen to transition, and I'd like to take them up. So there is a very interesting, a case study here. So they say that they've done a 3 years diploma plus a master's, but they've done their master's in tourism. So an MPhil in tourism. And they want to know if they are eligible for the program firstly, and how do they go about it? How would the roadmap look like for them?
Yeah, good question. And every time I do these types of webinars and things, I get, comments in the chat of, I did this degree and I have this GPA, am I eligible? And what I would say is apply for admission, right? We evaluate candidates in a holistic review process. We look at people with the undergraduate degree they earned, maybe the master's degree they earned, the GPA, their statement of purpose, all of that. You know, I've seen people come into these programs with degrees in English, degrees in the humanities. And so an academic program major at the undergraduate or even master's level is not going to preclude you from applying to the program. Let us decide based on your profile whether or not you're admissible, right? And certainly a Zoom call is not a good time to do that, right? like I don't want anyone unmuting themselves and saying, hey, here's my whole profile, what do you think? Not the time to do it right now, right? Privacy concerns there. We want to do that in a very deliberate way. You know, here's another thing I read often that you could probably attest to. You know, there's all these articles now that are like, artificial intelligence is taking over admissions. It's not, right? AI is not taking over admissions. We do not use AI in our process. Guess what? We have a real human being who reads your application for admission. And that's pretty cool, right? Because the human being there, the faculty member, his name is Dr. Krishna Aramili. He's the program director. He reads every single application to his program, right? And so he has a really good sense of who's going to be successful in the program and who's not. So, you know, if you have doubts, if you have concerns about your application, reach out to us, right?
Sure.
That is one of the better ways to have a conversation, maybe schedule time with Dr. Aramili and interview with him, right? Before he reads your application, maybe have a time to talk with him or talk with me and I can provide additional context in the application process. We get so many applications from students who just blindly apply to us. We have not heard of them. They were not in our CRM. We didn't even know they existed before they submitted the application. And so there's no contextual pieces there. For students who may have a lower GPA or may have a story to tell, contact us. Provide us that context before we receive your application.
Sure. Thank you, Brian, for the clarification. And, you know, at this point, I would also like to discuss at greater length about the partnership we have at IIT Chicago, because the partnership is designed to facilitate an MBA, which is a STEM MBA, of course, for learners who may be coming from a different background. Because you know, it's designed in such a way that we are accepting of people from other backgrounds, provided they meet a certain GPA. In respect of that, Brian and Mala both, if you can throw some light on what is the upgrad advantage that learners would be getting if they go via this pathway.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what we have done is we've created a pathway program, essentially with IMT here in India. So students are enrolling in the management certificate. So they're studying here in India. And then what they will do is they will apply once they've enrolled in that program. The application fee will be waived. And then students are given consideration for that 30% scholarship, where students will transfer up to 9 credit hours to be counted towards the MBA in business analytics. And then you will complete the rest of the program on campus and then graduate, of course, with that Stuart School of Business, Illinois Tech degree program. And so that is something that's very special. It's, you know, a one-of-a-kind pathway that we have. So in order to take advantage of those benefits, they would need to work directly with our partners at upGrad.
Great. Thanks, Marla. And since you mentioned that they would complete, they'll be completing the 12 months of coursework at IIT Chicago. In respect of that, how would it look like for a learner who's going directly in terms of, let's say, the financial expenditure they would have to incur versus if they were going with upGrad? And here I would also like you to speak more about the scholarship that you're offering for upGrad learners.
Yeah, so what this is so that's a few questions. So let's talk about at the very beginning, general cost of attendance for a student coming directly to our program. So our graduate programs within all colleges, with the exception of design and architecture, along with our Chicago Kent College of Law, have one price. So that total cost of attendance, including living expenses, so think room, meals, books, health insurance, whether you live on campus or off campus, because I know I saw that question in the chat,
Right.
is just about 50,000 US. So that's for one academic year. All of our graduate programs, MS or MBA, are 2-year programs. So that's kind of where we start. So it's about 100,000 US, everything included. Tuition by for 2 years, correct. So tuition by itself is just over 30,000 US. We charge it per credit, which is $1,712 per credit hour. Most programs range anywhere between 30 to 36 credits in total. So let's say that a student is coming to us from this pathway. They're transferring in one whole semester, which is 9 credits. So that is already almost 15,000 US. That's knocked off tuition that would not be charged. Then students will study approximately 3 semesters if they don't take summer class. So here in the US, our academic calendar runs from fall to spring. And assuming that students have a summer break. So that is a possibility for students to finish in a little bit less time. But then, so we've already taken off 1 semester, right, of 15,000 US of tuition. So that brings us right about 45,000. Now I'm estimating off the top of my head here. And so then we do offer the 30% scholarship for students that come in and meet our application and admission requirements into the MBA in business analytics.
Right, right. Excellent. Thank you, Marla. And, I was just listening to all the figures that you were mentioning. And for all our learners here, the figure that it amounts to, the savings that you are going to make if you go via upGrad is as much as 40 lakhs. I think that is incredible. And of course, IIT Chicago has been very generous to give us a 30% scholarship that I think everyone should avail of in respect of, let's say, you spoke about a pathway that students would do initially. Marla, how do you think doing a pathway beforehand, and this pathway is also going to be from an AACSB accredited school, IMT Ghaziabad, how do you think that could be a bridge? And obviously, when students are going to start the initial coursework, if they do it well, and if they make the most out of it, that could also make them very market ready, or I would say very well suited for a classroom at IIT Chicago. So what are your thoughts on how should the learners approach it?
Yeah, so I think that in today's marketplace, we are all connected digitally all the time. So that means borders are not as significant as they once were. And so the internationalization or globalization of students' experience is extremely important. So not only are you taking the step to pursue an education abroad in a different country, is going to add huge value, but for students coming into Illinois Tech from a variety of backgrounds, that is going to be a specific asset that you're going to contribute to the classroom, which, as we know, that can help foster innovation and differences of thinking. In the US, the classroom experience, I know Brian mentioned a little bit earlier, it's very different than the Indian classroom. And so it's very student driven. It's very focused on critical thinking and open discussion. And so all of those factors will play a huge role and make you a very strong candidate, not only in the admissions process, but also an active, positive contributing member to our campus community. And at the end of the day, that is also something that Illinois Tech and any university for that matter is looking for. Not only that you can be successful academically, but again, you can be that positive contributing member to the campus community. And eventually then become a member of the alumni network.
Alumni network. Excellent. Excellent. That's very helpful, Marla. And while you were speaking, we got an interesting question. I just happened to see it right now. And they mentioned that they've already done their MBA and from IIM. So that's a very prestigious institute in itself. But they are keen to pursue a second MBA in IIT Chicago. So they want to know how to approach it and whether it will be helpful, how would you go about it? Yes.
I have probably a little bit of a different opinion on this. So I will also let Brian answer this question as well. My main question would be, why do you want to do a second MBA if you've already obtained one? So that would be kind of the first thing, because at the end of the day, we want to talk about a good fit for you as a person, both personally and professionally. Even though we are here representing Illinois Tech and our graduate programs at Stuart School of Business, we also want to serve as an asset or a resource to you and help in that advising. At the end of the day, we want to give you the best information, and it is your decision to make. Obviously, nobody can make those for you. But that would be my first question. Maybe why would you want to go to a second MBA? And then I'll let Brian jump in here if he has anything to add. And then second to that, I would want to have the consideration or the conversation with you in a little bit more detail directly, because that is going to be not necessarily an obstacle, but it will be a topic of discussion when you go for your visa interview, because it is the same level of education, and it's not moving up, or it's not a significant change in career. Brian, what do you have anything you want to add?
I had the exact same notes in my head about that. And kind of to provide context from the faculty review side, I mean, I think Dr. Aramilli would have the same first question of why another MBA, right? Now, if you can articulate that, and again, you have personal reasons for that, you know, that's what the statement of purpose is there for. And that type of student, we would recommend you to reach out to us before, right? Like, let's get that contextual piece out there, rather than just applying and crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. But I do have questions. I think that needs to be more of a conversation, to figure out what your career goals are and how our program would help you with that. Yeah,
because not every MBA is created equally. So there may be, after that conversation of what your professional goals are, there may be another program on campus that's a better fit, that may not be the MBA, but may also help you in that transition to meet your goals, but then also give you some talking points in terms of writing that statement of purpose of why it's a good fit, that will then translate into that potential visa interview as well.
Right, great. So Marla and Brian, does that also mean that if you would have done an MBA in another field, if it's finance or marketing, and now you have a very strong story for why you want to do an MBA in business analytics, would that help? Would it allow them for some leverage?
Yeah, I mean, it won't hurt, because at the end of the day, it is a holistic admission process. But I think, and I can probably speak for both of us, you know, from both the academic and enrollment management side, we would want to see that the students done the research and share with us why it makes such a difference. Because a lot of times, just very frankly speaking, students that have that level of credential already in something that is so very much related, students go for a potential certificate to gain the hours in that very specific field, because, you know, the MBAs may be very closely related in terms of the core courses, depending on how similar the institutions are. So it's really only that specialization that differs. And that's something that usually can be achieved through certificates, not to mention it's much less cost. So just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you to the both of you for answering that question. And in the interest of time, you know, I see that we only have 4 minutes for the webinar to end, but I'll take two very interesting questions. One of them is, of course, from a student named Gopika. They've done their bachelor's in dental surgery and they want to know if they can apply for this program. And the other one is, of course, from someone who's done a BTech in mechanical engineering, and can they also apply for this program?
Yeah, I mean, I think
dental surgery, I think that's a very interesting profile.
Yeah, it is. And as I thought about it, I was like, okay, they probably have the quant background, because, you know, we know medical things are quantitative in some light, right? So yes, I there's nothing inherently about somebody coming with a dental background into the program that says, no, that's not going to work, right? If you have an excellent transcript and you can articulate in your statement of purpose why that STEM MBA or the MBA in business analytics is a good fit for you and how it's going to help you along in your career, absolutely, we'll review that. And I think that that's where you have to advocate for yourself and say, yep, I'm a good fit because this is what I want to do. This is my plan. And if you're articulate about it, and I should say not articulate, if you're intentional about it, if you can provide details about your plan, that's what is really impactful for us.
Right. Thank you, Brian. And one final question, which I'm going to be taking from Prashant. And Prashant mentions that they're 38 years old, and what are the chances of them getting an F1 visa? Wow. Yeah. So does age really play a criteria, especially because, it's an MBA in a typical classroom. We are looking at a typical classroom of students who are between the ages of 25 to 35 on an average. But how much of a role does age really play in getting an admission and also in respect of a visa?
Yeah, so those are two very different questions.
Yeah.
So in terms of
I think we
admission,
speak of the admissions. Yes.
yeah, for admission, it doesn't play a role. At the end of the day, we're looking at a student based on their qualifications, irrespective of age, creed, background, anything of that nature.
Right.
So the visa section is a little bit more of a tricky conversation to have. And so I am not a consulate officer. I am not an immigration attorney. So this is just my personal opinion. So from the conversations I have had with consulate offices from around the world, India included, I don't know where you may be applying from, but I'm assuming it would be India since we're talking about the IMT pathway program.
Right.
It really depends on how you can articulate what your goals are. The number one thing that students have to prove when applying for an F1 student visa is that you do not intend to immigrate and you intend to return to your home country. So it's really up to the person. And I will also give a little bit of a shameless plug here for our team. We do have an on-the-ground team here in India, but also in Chicago that provides mock interviews for students who have been admitted to our program. So you can practice that. We can give you some guidelines and some tips and best practices. But it's really going to be up to you to share why you want to attend Illinois Tech, why this specific program, and why now. And so that would be something that we could help with. But at the end of the day, it's really up to each student to be able to articulate that. Yeah, and it can be different for every student.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is exactly what the consulate office also looks at. How strong is your intent? Because we have so many applicants going in every year. On that note, I do see that we have a couple of questions and somebody has also raised their hand. I apologize, I'd not be able to take up your questions if you raise your hand. I can take up one final question if both Marla and Brian are comfortable with it. But for the rest of you, what I have done is I have shared with you the link to our website. And this is where you can get in touch with our academic counselors. You can discuss a lot. Everyone has a very different profile here. So this is where you can get in touch with their academic counselor and they will analyze your profile on a case-to-case basis and suggest the next course of action for you. And I highly suggest you do that. I'll take one final question, and that is about, because he's raised his hand so much. So what is your accommodation plan for students outside of the US? Marla, if you can also throw light, Marla and Brian, on the cost of accommodation, let's say, on that
Yes.
front.
Yeah. So we do have on-campus accommodation for students, both at the undergrad and graduate level. We do not have a residency requirement for grad students. So that means you don't have to live on campus if you don't want to. We do have traditional dorm style accommodation, suite style, and even apartments.
Sure.
So a lot of our apartments are relatively nice in terms that they've been recently remodeled. So they're all fully furnished. So that includes all the furniture, the appliances, all of your utilities, your Wi-Fi, electricity, water, etc. And so that ranges depending on personal preference and lifestyle, of course. You can get a private apartment. That obviously means the cost would be a little bit more. But for housing and food for one academic year, or excuse me, one calendar year of 12 months, it's just about 15 to 16,000 US. There is lots of opportunity for students to live off campus within the area that we are located. We do provide some resources to students of apartments that students typically choose, but we don't have any direct partnerships with any off-campus accommodations. We
Sure.
will have admitted student groups that come and are created each intake. So students can get to know each other in pre-departure orientations or admitted student events that we hold in country, where students can connect and create some of those communities and potentially find an apartment off campus or potential roommates as well. And that can vary. But one thing to keep in mind about off-campus accommodation is they're not all furnished. So that may be an increase in cost for furniture. And you do have to pay directly for Wi-Fi, electricity, water, your utilities, etc. So you could kind of think of it as a facilities managed if you live on campus, because let's say that it's wintertime, because Chicago does experience all 4 seasons, and your heat has went out, but you don't know it because you're in class all day. You get back to your apartment and now it's freezing and you have to make phone calls to find out someone to come to fix your heat. If you live on campus, it may go out and it's going to be fixed probably before you even return home. And so it's one less thing that you have to worry about. And we do provide free laundry on campus. So,
Oh, wow. Those are a host of services that you're offering. And, I could almost picture myself when you explain how it could be during the winter. All right. So on that note, I want to thank the both of you, Brian and Mala, for joining us here today, for giving us your time. This has been a very engaging discussion, and we are extremely excited for this partnership. We hope to see a lot of students go into IIT Chicago this fall. Yes.
likewise, we look forward to welcoming them all in August or beyond.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. And we look forward to hosting you on our webinar, on a next webinar very soon. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
day.
evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.